Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with TheLibertyBeacon.com. And I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show.
How's it going? Hope you're having a pleasant day. Thank you for taking the time to tune in once again, or if you're new, your first time to the ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast. I think this should most likely be a short show. Yeah, I know. I'm laughing at myself. I've said that before. And then what? It ends up being one of my record length shows. Because then I get going down side rabbit holes. Because again, nothing exists in a vacuum. All issues correspond, correlate, relate in some way, shape, or form. They affect each other. And I bet when I said this is likely going to be a short show, you were expecting me to say already, at any rate. So, yes, indeed, let's get one of those in already. At any rate. Principles, not personalities. It's a pretty simple concept, but yet so many fall prey to a charismatic person, and caught up in the personalities and kind of the rah over this or that, and let down their guard on if and when or willing to sell their principles and values short. Which is not to say compromise is a dirty word, unless if you're always doing it and giving away your values and principles, then it's not compromise, it's selling out. It is surrender. So there is that. Yes, on occasion, obviously, I'm not going to give an exact example, but so-and-so may put forth something, and generally I would oppose it, but I'm willing to listen with an open mind as to the whys and wherefores so-and-so thinks we need to do this or that. And I might say, okay, I generally would oppose this, but I'm willing to give you a shot. Let's try that. Maybe it can work. I don't think it will, but maybe it can work. And let's try that. But again, if you're doing that all the time, that's not compromise. That's surrender. That's sellout. So principles, not personalities. Judge not, I've got written down on my notes here. Hear me rustling the paper. Right? Judge not, it's really condemn not lest ye be condemned, because there are 12 other scriptures plus that tell us we are to judge, and we are to judge biblically. And it's this, we are to judge on the same standards, right? That applies here with principles, not personalities. Judging by the same set of standards. Not being a hypocrite. That is important. That matters. We don't flip-flop in the wind. And speaking of flip-flopping in the wind, if you remember from many election cycles ago, the John Kerry ad about him out on the parasailer, and he was for it before he was against it. It's like, some people have no principles. Their only value or principle is the attainment and keeping of power. They will say and do anything. That, in a sense, their personality matters, the content of their character there is then established and does matter. That in itself is a principle. Someone whose character is that they are completely unprincipled, that of their personality, their character matters. But this show isn't really about that. That's about issue by issue, and every issue you must judge on its own merits. And yes, again, they often almost always all interconnect and interrelate. But I mentioned John Kerry because of the Hatch Act. Time after time after time, whenever there's a Republican president, John Kerry and others on the left constantly going abroad and interacting with foreign leaders, a violation of what's known as the Hatch Act. Been around a long time, but basically never been enforced. I'm sorry, I'm kind of stumbling with my words here a bit. But what sparked this episode is that Donald Trump met with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, regarding what's going on in the Middle East right now. And that clearly is a violation of the Hatch Act. Now, some on social media tried to push back on me. Well, he was the former president. Yeah, true. Regardless, irrelevant. He is not the president right now. You can only have one president, one commander in chief, one head of the State Department at a time. That was the point and purpose of the Hatch Act. So, one of two things has to happen. You have to either be honest and say, well, John Kerry was in violation of it and should have been prosecuted for it. We can't have these competing or contradictory messages being sent abroad about what is current U.S. policy. And if you said that then, you can then not excuse Donald Trump doing it now. I am supporting Trump for president in 2024, but I am not a hypocrite. I do not worship any man on this planet. If you recall, or if you've not heard the show before, you don't know, born and raised a Catholic, although, like I say over, in case this is your first show, this is not a Catholic show. It's not a Lutheran show, a Methodist show, a Baptist show, an Adventist show, a yada, 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 whatever brand or flavor show. It is Christian show overall. And what can us as different denominations come together on in and under Christ, rather than letting Satan win by having us arguing with each other. Satan wins when that happens. But this is about not being hypocrites. I coined the term nincompoop for Francis because in my mind, he is more interested in communism than Catholicism a lot of the time. And as I've written in many pieces lately, I think I've mentioned on several shows, I plan on repeating it here if you've not heard it yet. Community is biblical. Community is voluntary. We were given free will. We are given personal commandments to take care of each other, but that is voluntary through charity. That is biblical versus communism or socialism, whatever. It is forced, theft, redistribution. There is a difference, and the distinction matters. Community is biblical. And again, judge not, condemn not, remove the log from your own eye, judge on one set of standards. I am remaining consistent here. No man on this planet, including the Pope, is above criticism. So Trump should not have met with Netanyahu because Trump has indeed complained about Hatch Act violations in the past. So you cannot point the finger at the other guys and do the same thing yourself. We must remain consistent. And I have in my note here, shoe on the other foot test, right? A couple episodes ago, the speculations and what ifs episodes. Will you answer that honestly if the shoe is on the other foot? Let's just, for sake of argument, I'm not a mind reader, although I joke online about being Joe Stradamus at times. I have indeed predicted, like I came up with the term Camelot, after the JFK Camelot thing. And indeed, a week later, New York Magazine has it on their cover. Of course, I meant it as a joke, as a prediction that indeed the left, who can never deal in substance, would try to JFK-esque Kamala Harris. And indeed, that's what we're seeing, right? All fluff, all style over substance, all trying to make her like the second coming of Camelot. And she's not, obviously, but they have to do that to avoid dealing in their policy failure. They can't talk policy, they can't talk substance, so they try to deflect the style. So the shoe on the other foot, for sake of argument, again, not predicting one way or the other. The polls are so close, and we elect a president based on the Electoral College, not popular vote. The battleground state polls are all within the margin of error, so it could go either way this November. But for sake of argument, let's just say Trump is elected. And then Kamala Harris decides to run around the planet to Iran and wherever else, our nation's enemies instead of our allies, to undermine the foreign policy of the then current, if Trump is elected, Trump administration. Can you honestly say that you're then going to hold the same standard? If you allow Trump to do it, you can't whine about Kamala doing it. I complained about John Kerry doing it, and Al Gore doing it, and Hillary Clinton doing it during Republican administrations. I remain consistent. I am about principles, not personalities. I am not cutting Trump slack on this. I understand why he did it. I agree that we need to be closer with our ally Israel regarding having been attacked by terrorists on October 7th, but I'm not running for president. So I could meet with Benjamin Netanyahu and tell him my thoughts and my fellow countrymen that agree with me that we should be more supportive rather than aiding and abetting Iran by lifting the sanctions as Biden did, which allowed Iran to get rich again with oil money to then afford to back Hezbollah and Hamas terrorists, which led to the October 7th terrorist attacks. Not one military target was struck that day. They purposefully, willfully, and malice of forethought attacked, murdered, raped, kidnapped men, women, children. No military targets. Terrorist attack. But again, yes, a little off the beaten path there, but this is what we're dealing with. But back to the topic. Shoe on the other foot syndrome. Are you going to be consistent? Do you remain consistent? Do you hold to your principles and not succumb to personality, celebrity worship? That's the question. That's the point of this whole show. And I'm looking up at the Zoom clock there. It says I'm 16 and a half minutes into recording this segment of the show. And indeed, yeah, that's it. Can you believe it? I actually said this would be a short show. And indeed, it's turning into a short show. So let me, in conclusion, read again, thelibertybeacon.com. Principles, not personalities, will be the title of the corresponding, correlating piece that drops there also Saturday, August the 10th, same day as this show. I'm going to read just this one little section. Again, they correlate and correspond. Not everything that's in that article is in the show. Not everything that's in the show may be in that article. You're meant to listen to the one and read the other, or read the one, then listen to the other. I appreciate if you would, because I don't want to tie up too much of your time at one setting, either with the show or with the article. Need to keep them both reasonable length. Real Donald Trump, I said this on Truth, at Real Donald Trump should not be talking with world leaders, period. Not right now. Why? Simple. We as people on the right, conservatives, ChristiTutionalists, have been complaining about fascists always undermining USA while Republicans hold office in violation of the Hatch Act. So I do not, will not change my tune for Trump, be a liar and a hypocrite like a leftist, flip-flopper, etc. There is only one official commander-in-chief / president and secretary of state, etc. at a time, period. That is not only law, but foundation of our constitutional republic. So in closing, the Hatch Act either needs to be given teeth and enforced and people prosecuted, or it needs to be eliminated. And I'm not for eliminating it, because then there would be complete chaos. We cannot have 50,000 people claiming to represent the United States running around the world making promises to other world leaders when there is one commander-in-chief, one administration at a time officially in charge of our nation. And with that, I bid you all a fond farewell, bid you an adieu till next week. And again, remember, the Saturday regular drops are monologue shows like this was. And I think I've got enough guest interviews in the can now that indeed probably every Wednesday going forth for some time will be special Wednesday midweek drops, whereas before I was just dropping an occasional one here and there. But from here going forward to probably the election, although not all of them are politically related, I have a couple singer-songwriters coming on, a couple authors coming on, a couple whatever. The midweek drops don't always have to be Christian or political. They are midweek special guests for whatever reason, whether they fit or the show. If you remember, I had an atheist on this show before. If you want to look up Liz Entin, it was a great show with her. She's actually been on twice. There I go again. 2 fingers on 2 hands is 4. Hold up 1 hand with 2 fingers. She was on twice. For those of you seeing on the video behind the scenes there, you can see my screw up. I don't know why I do that. Hold up both hands, trying to make a point about 2. Holding up both hands with 2 fingers makes 4, not 2. But she was on twice. Once we were talking about afterlife, her non-religious scientific approach to belief in afterlife, and my belief through Christianity in indeed afterlife. So at any rate, yeah, I know, I bet you knew I was going to say that, right? At any rate, indeed, thank you all for tuning in. Take care. God bless. Till next time. See you later.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff. No fancy high production intro or inserts, at least yet, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help to grow the show. Just wanted to give a brief shout out and thank you to all the folks on iHeartRadio and Player FM for being 2 in the top 3 platforms that my show, ChristiTutionalist Politics, is most often listened to. So thank you all. Take care. God bless.